Perhaps you've seen the photo before. A young woman with her hands bound, tape over her mouth, laying in the back of a van with a similarly bound little boy. This photo has become synonymous with the case of Tara Calico, a 19-year-old young woman who disappeared while riding her bike in New Mexico in 1988. But beyond that photo, many don't know much about Tara or her disappearance. And this year, she'll have been missing for 36 years, almost twice as long as she was alive. This is her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week, we are joined by Lauren Robertson.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
So, Vanessa, we try to cover stories of missing and unidentified women that perhaps haven't been covered a lot as a way to remember those women and get their names and stories out into public view. That's not the case with this one.
So has this one been in the media a lot?
Yeah, so today we're talking about the story of Tara Calico. Her story has definitely been in the public spotlight for many years, most notably due to a photo that's been shared everywhere and is often seen in some of those pretty terrible lists like shocking true crime photos.
Do you think it's something I've seen?
It might be, although it's you, so probably not.
What?
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy.
Maybe not. And I'm going to give a bunch of qualifiers before I start. One, there's no way we can cover everything about her story in just one episode. And I don't mean that in the core parts of her story sort of way, because we do sometimes do double episodes. But I do mean that in the intricate twists and turns. We can't cover all of those. Second, we are not, nor do we pretend to be, an investigative podcast. Our goal here is to bring light to stories and have discussions about being missing in America. If you are looking for an investigative approach, I'm going to send you to The Tara Calico Investigation by Melinda Esquivel. She knew Tara and has worked with her family, but she has done important work as a filmmaker and podcaster to uncover the details about what happened to Tara.
Have you listened to her podcast?
I actually have not, and there's a huge reason why I haven't. I'm familiar with Melinda's work on this. I've not listened to her podcast because I don't want to inadvertently take that content, which is only available through Patreon, and present it here on our platform. I've used the public statements that she's made and will listen to her podcast, and I hope the rest of you will as well as soon as we're done recording this one. Because I know there is a lot of nuances and connections that we don't capture here, but her, who's on the ground, who's been going through all these files for years, speaking to family members and community members and investigators, she knows. And so we'll link to her on our website.
Sounds good.
So with those qualifiers said, we have a lot to cover with Tara's story. Tara Lee Calico was born on February 28, 1969 at the St. Joseph Medical Center in Wichita, Kansas, to Pat and Dave Calico. Pat and Dave worked as railroad employees, and Tara was their third child. The couple already had 2 sons. According to Pat, her pregnancy with Tara was not an easy one, and the doctors warned her not to go out and buy any baby items just in case. But Pat, she remained hopeful that things would go well, and when she gave birth, she decided to name her new daughter after the book she had been reading, Gone with the Wind. So Tara was named after the plantation in the novel, Tara, and her middle name Lee came from Vivian Lee, who played Scarlett O'Hara in the film adaptation. Because of their work in the railroad system, the family ended up relocating a few times. Around the time Tara was 4, they were transferred to Kansas City. I believe Pat and Dave were still together when Pat was relocated to Albuquerque, New Mexico, since I know Dave ends up there as well, but my timeline here is a bit squishy. At some point, though, Pat and Dave separated. When Tara was around 6, Pat remarried a man named John Dole. The couple had met at the Santa Fe Railroad Yards in Albuquerque. John had 2 daughters of his own. So they quickly became a family of 7 with his children and hers combined. John also worked for the railroad, and the couple relocated to Belen, New Mexico, which is about 30 miles south of Albuquerque. Belen is really considered, or was, a railroad town, so it makes sense that Pat, who had worked as a clerk and eventually as an assistant trainmaster, and John, who was a conductor, would end up in this otherwise remote town. They settled in on Brook Street in a nearby community called Rio Communities. From their yard, you could hear the train whistles as the trains came into the railway. It's very clear that both her mother and stepfather deeply loved Tara, and it sounds like she was pretty exceptional. One of the things that keeps coming up about her throughout later interviews is how independent she was. Her mom said that when she was 5, Tara started a business selling handmade paperweights door to door. And John said that when she was 6 and he first started parenting her, that she was so self-sufficient even then. She did everything for herself and for everybody else as well.
Paperweight sound adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your own childhood business. Like, oh.
Well, yeah. Just imagine a little girl coming by and you can buy a paperweight.
Right.
Very cute.
Yeah. Work really seemed like an important part of her life. By the time she was 14, she was regularly working. She bagged groceries and she waitressed. She was buying her own clothes by the time she was 15. By all accounts, it seemed like working and earning money helped fulfill her desires of being self-sufficient in a lot of ways. And Tara is definitely what I would call type A. She kept to-do lists and schedules, and she alphabetized the family spice cabinets. Like, she's just like that kind of person.
Are you that kind of person?
Because I keep spreadsheets and
Yes.
to-do lists. My spice cabinets are not alphabetized, but I do love a good spreadsheet. In high school, she did exceptionally well. She took college-level classes and had been in things like cheerleading, the marching band, and tennis. She served as a manager for the track and field team, and she spoke French fluently and played several musical instruments. After she graduated, she started attending University of New Mexico at Valencia, which had a campus in town. It seems like she was easing into the college experience and deciding what her next moves were. Just before sophomore year, she worked as a check verificator at the First National Bank and was majoring in psychology. Now, despite all this, it's clear she did make time to socialize. She became friends with another woman, Cynthia, who worked at the bank. Cynthia said that she would rush through their workday so that they could take their breaks together on the bank steps where they would sit and talk. Tara also would drive to the malls in Albuquerque or cruise on Belen's main drag on weekend nights. From various records, it's clear that she had a boyfriend in the previous year, but they were no longer together. By the time September rolls around, Tara's making a few other changes. She's been dating a guy named Jack Cole for a few weeks. He's her age, but attending the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. And she's making some choices about her future. Her brother said that she left her First National Bank job so she could spend more time focusing on her studies. She wanted to be a practicing psychiatrist. She's just really like throwing herself into life here. Now we're going to head into the part where that you hate, Vanessa, when I start mentioning dates. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's never a good sign.
No. So Tuesday, September 20th, 1988 is really a pretty regular day for Tara. She's about to head out for her daily bike ride of about 34 miles round trip. Now, one thing I haven't said about Tara so far is that she is incredibly athletic, like in the 34-mile bike ride to start your day kind of way.
This is just exercise? This is not to get anywhere?
No. It's like just like an out and back morning exercise
She's a motivated
routine.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before she heads out, she asks her mom to rewind her cassette tapes for her so she can listen on her Sony Walkman because, yes, it's 1988, and that is definitely how we rolled back then with our Walkmans and our mixtapes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think hers were mixtapes, though. But meanwhile, she lays out everything she needs for later that day. She plans on meeting her boyfriend for a tennis match after lunch at around 12:30. So, like...
Still has energy.
Yes.
From that bike ride to play tennis.
Yes. And after that, she's attending her afternoon class at 3:30. So she puts out her tennis clothes and racket and balls and school books and purse. Now, I've seen several different times for this, but basically she tells her mom that if she's not home by a certain time to come and get her. About 2 weeks before, she had an issue with a flat tire on her bike, so she wanted to make sure she was able to go to the rest of her obligations for the day. And then around 9:30, she heads out on her mom's hot pink Huffy 10-speed with yellow control cables. So it's something I want to make sure is clear here. She is very bright and apparent. Her own bike had a damaged derailleur, which is why she took her mom's. Now, Tara did often bike alone. Her mom had gone with her a few times recently, but said that there were a few moments when she felt unsafe on the road due to what she described as unpleasant motorists. Pat, her mom, said much later that she had felt like she was being stalked on her ride.
Can you remind me again how old Tara is?
She's 19.
19, okay.
Now, in case anyone is wondering, Pat had, yes, told her daughter multiple times that she shouldn't be riding alone. Was that where you were?
Yeah, because I was kind of like thinking that through with that her own mom felt like she'd been stalked. So, like, what would you tell your daughter who's still trying to be super independent if you don't feel safe?
This is one of those moments where I have some mixed feelings about, because I think like much later she's saying that she felt stalked, and earlier she had said that she just felt unsafe due to motorists. Like, is that because like,
but still, like,
yeah,
if you feel unsafe due to motorists, would you let your daughter? And I know she's 19, so she
she's
can't
19.
not let her,
Yeah.
but like when you try to discourage it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, so she definitely tried talking to her.
She did? Okay.
Yeah. But Tara said, Mom, I can't run my life worrying about what's around every corner. And her friend Bernard, who'd known her since childhood, said he'd asked her to at least bring mace or a knife or some other weapon with her, but she declined that as well. And Jack, her boyfriend, seemed to have spoken about that with her as well, because he said she would always say things like, things happen for the best. If something's going to happen, it's meant to happen. So I'm about to say some things that I know is going to have at least every female identifying listener cringing, but remember, we're not blaming them for what happens to them, and a lot of how we interact with the world, the decisions we make, are based not just off our own lived experiences, but also stories like Tara. When Tara left home, she biked roughly half a mile to New Mexico 47, which is a 2-lane road that runs south of Rio Communities. It's relatively empty on that end of the road. It's built up a bit more now, I'm sure, but then it just kind of like stretched into the distance. There were wild sunflowers on both sides of the road, and to the east are the Manzano Mountains in the distance, so it's really like quite striking. Now, Tara had a regular route that she would take. I'm guessing, given Tara's personality, she liked this route because she knew how long it was and how long it would take her. Every time she would ride down to where the train tracks cut across 47 and turn back. So with her headphones on and a tape in her yellow Sony Walkman Sport, she headed off on her ride. I was just, I was thinking about Tara this week because I'm changing up my dog walking routine.
You're changing your dog path?
Well, it's just that, like, I'm going to be walking him at separate times. I don't know if I'm going to be with my husband or not on the walks. And I was like, oh, God, like, if I head out at the same time every day and I'm going the same route. And
you're creating a pattern.
Yeah.
An observable pattern.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, I want to listen to my audiobooks, like, while I'm walking. And,
you're blocking off your hearing.
And I was just thinking, like, how unfair that is because, like, legit, like, this would never cross my husband's mind.
No.
So, anyway, because of her work with trains, Pat was extremely punctual, and that was the way her daughter was raised as well. So, within 5 minutes of her not arriving at home on time, Pat was out the door on her way to look for her daughter. She drove to Tara's route and started looking for her, likely thinking that Tara was yet again having some sort of difficulty with her bike. But as Pat drove the route, Tara was nowhere to be found. And then Pat drives back home and bursts in on John, who was just getting to sleep after his night shift as conductor. They ended up rounding up a few of Tara's friends and start searching for her along New Mexico 47. After about 2 hours, her mom starts calling just about everyone. She texts the local hospitals to see if Tara's been injured. She calls a rescue unit, and she contacts the Valencia County Sheriff's Office to report her missing. A search for her does begin immediately, and within 5 hours, she's entered into the NCIC as a missing person. Wednesday, the day after she went for her bike ride, it's intermittently rainy, sometimes with heavy rains, which complicates the search. That morning, though, they notice what appears to be a bike tire scuff marks on the road and what looks like plastic from maybe a broken bicycle taillight. This is on the side of the road that Tara would have used to return home. And there's a place in the dirt along the side of the road where it appears a bike had been dragged down and back up a slight embankment. It also looks like there were footprints leading to another small area where it appears, based on the disruption on the ground, that a scuffle had taken place. Near these tracks, they also spot what looks like a fresh oil slick and car tracks. All of this combined leads them to believe that she's been abducted. On the opposite side of the road, some distance away, her mother finds a Boston tape in the mud. Now, her mother says she recognized this as the tape as one of Tara's. Since this is on the opposite side of the road from where the tire marks are, her mother thinks it looks like Tara was headed away from home. Pat thinks that this is purposeful. She said, "I know Tara would have had the presence of mind to leave something we could find and know it was hers." Now, Vanessa, we have covered plenty of cases where law enforcement has been dismissive of missing teenagers, but that's not the case with Tara.
I'm glad because, like, if they would have started saying that she was a runaway, like a lot of the others we've discussed, she doesn't seem like the kind of kid that would run away.
Right. Like, she's got her, it's very clear. She's got her whole day planned out. Like,
she knows what she's doing. She's got plans, not just for that day, but for the future.
Exactly.
So she does not seem like someone who'd be running away. So I am glad that they found enough evidence to take that out of, like, taunting her mother with that, you know?
Yeah. And so at the start, at least, the response seems pretty impeccable. Like, you have her entered into that database, right? That's huge. You also have law enforcement, again, like, taking her family seriously. And the Valencia County Sheriff, Sheriff Romero, says, "We feel this is an involuntary disappearance. We understand from talking to her parents and her friends that it is totally out of character for her to turn up missing." So it's good that, like, these very public statements are made from the start, because that wasn't true otherwise. That Wednesday, they even planned to do an aerial search for her, but the rain forces the flight down after only about half an hour of looking. In the words of Sheriff Romero, though, "Everyone we talk to says Tara is dependable and reliable, and that's why we have cause to pull out all the stops to find her right away." Which is why there are ATVs, 2 bloodhounds, searchers on horseback, high school students, retired law enforcement, friends, and family members searching for her in those first few days. The Air Force even diverted a C-130 plane bound for Albuquerque and sent it over the mountains to look for her. But even with all this searching, there's only one other piece of evidence. What is reported in some places as broken plastic and in others as the window portion of a Sony Walkman, which are found at the John F. Kennedy campground entrance about 19 miles away. It's unclear why there's a belief that this is from Tara, but for Tara's mom, it is a sign that Tara has left for them. Basically like a trail of breadcrumbs.
Like, purposefully left for them.
Yeah, so that's how her mom codes these finds. And I want you to hold both the tape and the Walkman pieces in your head because we're going to return to them later.
Okay. And the Walkman piece, to be clear, is just the little plastic clear window.
So in some places, it's described as pieces, like broken plastic.
Okay.
Like unspecified. And then other places, it specifically says like the window piece.
Okay.
Now, even though the road she was biking on is pretty barren landscape, there are some witnesses who reported seeing her that day. Since she takes this route daily, she's actually a pretty recognizable figure. Witnesses include 3 hunters, although I've seen it listed as 4 hunters, who said she was heading north back home when they passed her as they were headed in an opposite direction. They said that she was being followed by a truck that was traveling slowly. 2 ranch hands also said that they saw her heading north at 11:30. This information won't be released to the public much later, but in total, there seems to be 7 witnesses that I can kind of account for here. 5 of them saw her being followed by a truck. They said that she had her headphones on and didn't seem to notice the truck behind her. The men even undergo hypnosis in the hopes it will help them recall more details. After this, a truck was described in the media as being light in color, potentially with a camper shell on the back. And after hypnosis, they're able to come up with a composite sketch of the man based on these memories. It's important to note that later newspapers will include that there was more than one man seen in the truck.
Do you think that the hypnosis does actually really work with details?
No.
You don't? Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. You've read a lot of these police files, and I was just curious if, like, there's been a few times where we've seen this kind of thing, but I just don't know if it would actually give
anything
much more evidence than just a witness
Yeah,
account.
I think in every case that I've read, like, I've seen even police, like, say, like, do hypnosis or, rely on even psychics or also, like, at some point, like, you just want, you're taking in every possibility, right? And so, within 2 days of this search, the New Mexico State Police actually pull out of the ground search for her. And a spokesman, Dan Taylor, states, They have felt from the beginning that this was an abduction. It was suspended because there are no clues that she is in the area, but there are plenty of clues that she was abducted. So doing a ground search doesn't make sense, right? He goes on to say that search and rescue was, in the course of their search, sent into the desert, but that the only reason that they did this was out of a courtesy, basically, to Sheriff Romero, who insisted that a heavy-duty search for Tara take place. And despite what looks like an abduction scenario, her family is unwavering in their belief that she's going to be okay. Her brother Chris is quoted that Friday as saying, "Tara is very athletic and physically fit, and we feel that if she was abducted, she could withstand this ordeal." As well as, "We know Tara's alive and aren't going to waver one bit from that. She is tough, fit, and mentally strong individual, and we feel that she could come through something like this with flying colors." And this core belief in Tara that she is both strong physically and mentally is definitely part of what sustains the family for years after her disappearance. Which is, I mean, honestly, like, it's not like anyone would ever say that about me. They'd be like, she would crumble. Right?
She's gone.
She's gone. Yeah, like, no one. So, yeah, Tara's a different type of person. Despite this initial surge to find her, media interest in this case does drop off pretty quickly. Most of this initial coverage was confined to just like local and state pieces, but that changes pretty quickly in the summer of 1989, so roughly 9 months after Tara disappeared. I honestly debated whether or not to include this next information just because it has become so controversial now, but I think it's impossible to extract Tara's story from it, particularly because it informs years of coverage about her. So that's my preface to this, and I'm going to work through it pretty quickly. In June 1989, a woman finds a photograph on the ground of a convenience store parking lot in Port Joe, Florida. She would later say that she'd previously seen a van parked in that location. The photo, which I'll quickly describe and see if Vanessa knows it, is of 2 children in the back of a van. There's a young woman looking to be in her teens and a younger boy, probably preteen or a little younger. Both appear to be bound and have tape over their mouths. There's a worn copy of the book My Sweet Audrina in the foreground.
I have not seen this photo.
I am not surprised, Vanessa.
Is it something you knew of before?
Yes.
Okay.
And soon after this is found, it's run on the national television show A Current Affair as one of their segments. Soon after this is found, it's run on the national television show A Current Affair as one of their segments. A friend of Tara's mother and stepfather calls them about it because the young woman bears a striking resemblance to Tara. Again, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so Amy just showed me the picture. It is definitely not one I have seen before, and it would be really hard to tell who it is exactly. There's like a big piece of tape over the girl's mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
So another New Mexico family, the Henleys, believed the boy looks a lot like their missing son, Michael, who was 9 when he went missing April 1988 while on a hunting trip with his father. Now, Pat, Tara's mom, is initially hesitant about this. She says she can't be sure until she looks at the photo in person. So A Current Affair flies Pat as well as the Henleys out to Florida so they can look at it in person. After viewing it, the Henleys seem to be divided on whether or not it's Michael, but for Pat, she becomes more certain that it is. She thinks it looks a lot like her, minus Tara's usual perm and makeup. And then there's the copy of My Sweet Audrina, which is apparently Tara's favorite books. And it's also one of mine. Pat begins to believe that Tara is being held captive. She says, "Strange as it may seem, I would thank him," the captor, "for keeping her alive. I hope he values her life as much as we do." This discovery, though, propels Tara's story into the media spotlight. It's covered on Oprah, America's Most Wanted, Unsolved Mysteries, basically all of the top TV shows that you can think of at the time. Polaroid, the company, confirms that the film used was not available before April, making it clear that this was indeed a recent photo. Meanwhile, the FBI looks at this photo to do a comparison. By August 31st of this year, they weighed in, saying their results were inconclusive. I believe it's Tara's family that approaches Scotland Yard and asks them for a comparison. They say it's likely her based on an ear comparison and a scar on her leg. Tara had been in a horrible car accident just a few years before, and that had left this scar and necessitated removing portions of 2 vertebrae. This photo becomes synonymous with Tara's case. Even today, you can't search for her without finding it. And I really do get it. It's a very dramatic looking photo, and Also, this is the same hope I would hold as well if my daughter was missing.
It's a really disturbing photo. I would remember if I would have seen that one before. I have not, but I guess it really only is valuable to this case if that is Tara.
Right.
Which we really just still can't know that.
Right. And so Pat, though, like, she firmly believes that it is, like, Scotland Yard, kind of weighing in saying it is. And honestly, like, if my daughter had gone missing, like, I would, like, any hope that I could hold on to, right? And so Pat isn't the only one who believes strongly in this. Tara's cousin Gina from Wichita said, "We knew that she was strong-willed and strong-minded, and that her being a psychology major, she could talk whoever it is into keeping her alive." We'll be back in a moment. And so Tara's family does what some of the other families we've discussed before have done. They start mailing out thousands of informational flyers with Tara's information on it. Michael, the missing boy, they include his information as well. In 1990, though, skeletal remains are found by a rancher riding a fence near where Michael went missing, and they were later positively identified as his.
But I mean, theoretically, could he still be the kid in the photo and?
Well, that would be like really... So that would mean like he would have been kidnapped from the woods and driven to like at some point to Florida and then like brought back and like left in the same like...
So not probable at all. Okay.
No. And plus also the length of time those remains had been there.
Okay. So
yeah. It's not.
He passed away soon after he went missing.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes. Tara's family, though, they keep searching, following every lead, every possibility. During this time, they travel extensively following reports and are often faced with looking at photos of deceased Jane Does, trying to identify if they're Tara or not.
That's gotta be terrifying.
Yes. It reminds me a lot of, like, you and I were just recently discussing Brianna Maitland.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Some of the things that they told her parents, like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's very, like, the trauma that people go through, right? One of the things that does keep their hope alive, though, is that 2 other photos surface. Pat mentions these in a 1991 interview, but says that she won't discuss them further. A professor of clinical psychology who specialized in stranger-on-stranger violence and worked on some pretty significant cases had been advising them not to speak too much about these photos in case Tara experienced, like, reprisal abuse. Basically, if her kidnapper knew the family was talking about these photos or had photos of her, that she might be harmed out of retaliation or fear of them being like talked about publicly.
Okay.
So I have to say with like that, there's like also this like incredible amount of fear this family might be facing, believing that if their daughter had been kidnapped, that she could be harmed because of them talking
based on
about
what actions they take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, in the year 2024, those photos are readily available online. One found on a construction site in Montecito, California, features a young woman with her head on some light blue fabric that looks similar to the fabric on the pillow in the first photo. The second features a young woman on an Amtrak train with her eyes covered. She's loosely bound and a man is standing next to her. Pat said this photo may or may not have been her daughter and may have been a gag photo, but she's still keeping it as a possibility.
Have the police compared the women in those 2 photos with the other photo?
I'm sure at some point they did, but like...
Nothing really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, not a lot of activity seems to be coming out of the Valencia County sheriffs, at least not publicly. At some point, Tara's mom and stepdad made clear that they weren't happy with the case's progress under Sheriff Romero. In 1991, though, Sheriff Romero's son, Elle, dies from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the mobile home where he lived.
Are we calling him L because he's a suspect?
I will get to that later.
There's 2 things that are never good are dates and men with initials for names.
Men with initials for names, yes. And there's another man at the mobile home at this time, L2, which spurred a lot of talk about whether this was a possibility of something more than a self-inflicted situation. The talk centers around whether or not this is indeed a death by suicide, a game of Russian roulette gone wrong, or murder, as Sheriff Romero will insist later. The sheriff goes on to say, I know the Dole's pain. I really do. At least I got to bury my child. Despite them kind of patching up things, they do seem happy with the change of leadership when Romero left. From there, Tara's case gets kicked around back and forth between different lead agencies. In 1993, the DA's office takes over, citing the lack of resources within the sheriff's office to press forward. They hired a contract investigator named Jay Eschenberg, who really butts head with the Dole family due to his line of inquiry. In fact, at some point, he cuts communication with them and publicly states that he believes that Tara was abducted, raped, and killed. He says, it's the only thing that makes sense to me. I know that Mrs. Dole believes that Tara could be alive, but it's just not probable. When asked about leads that have been brought in by Pat and her work, he calls them, quote unquote, circus elements that make my work so much harder. So yeah, I can see why they were at odds with one another. But this is also where we begin moving away from the idea that she's been kidnapped and held captive, and publicly they start talking about other possibilities. And he continues saying, Tara isn't riding around the country held captive by some crazy group. This was a violent crime, a crime of opportunity. There was no premeditation about it. But his work doesn't yield anything definite in terms of charges. In 2008, the case seems to be back in Valencia's hands, and the new sheriff, Rene Rivera, drills down on this point a bit more in the way that illuminates what kinds of conversations are happening locally about her. Now, for clarity, he'd been deputy in 1989 and promoted to a detective in 2006 before becoming sheriff. So there's a sense here that he's been working on this case from the start. And he says the individuals who did harm to Tara knew who she was. They knew who she was, and they're all local individuals, and I believe that the parents of the attackers were some of the people that helped the individuals with hiding the truth or hiding the body or trying to escape prosecution.
How'd he come up with all that?
So he's been working this case for...
The other one's just like, yeah, it's just a crime of opportunity. But I mean, given that she did the same bicycle path each day, that seemed like it could be...
connected, yeah. So... this is just like, it reminds me of just like all the small town.
Yeah, it's just, it is kind of like Brianna Maitland.
Yeah, where people know stuff, right? He explained that the attackers were in high school with her, a year younger than she was. And he went on to say she was a really pretty girl. She was very athletic, and a lot of guys wanted to talk to her. They wanted to meet her. They wanted to go out with her. And while she was riding her bike, they wanted to try to talk to her, try to grab her, whatever, while she was on her bike. He says that there are 4 people involved, and indeed, over the years, more information has surfaced that it wasn't just a lone guy in a vehicle. He says there is enough evidence to arrest 2 for murder and 2 on charges associated with them being accomplices. He says that this hasn't happened before now because it's hard to move forward without a body. Mm-hmm. He says, it's very frustrating being that there's a lot of people that know what happened. They know the whereabouts of the body or remains. A lot of the information we're getting is because people are starting to open up a little bit more. When this first happened, people were scared. People were threatened not to speak out because what happened to Tara could happen to them. Even with these rather bold statements, though, there are no arrests made. By 2013, another statement was made by Sheriff Louis Burkhead, who was then in charge. Unlike his predecessor, he believed that there wasn't enough evidence to convict anyone.
Those are some pretty bold statements. So if there was enough, it seems like it would have been quick. Just like, okay, let's just get this done. But it doesn't seem like that's the story you're going to tell me.
Not, no.
Okay.
Later that same year, after Sheriff Burkhead said there's not enough, basically a new task force is formed. Bernalillo County Sheriff Dan Houston was out exercising and ran into Tara's stepsister, and the 2 of them ended up talking about Tara's case. He pressed for a task force, and one was formed that included New Mexico State Police, Valencia County Sheriff's Department, Albuquerque Police, and actually Homeland Security. Now, some of Tara's police file is floating around on the internet. It's a very small portion of what is a massive amount of information on her case. I think it's like 20-something pages long. Her case files are plentiful at this time. Part of the reason this is floating around is that this document is unredacted, and so that gets a lot of attention. In it, a man who served as a community officer for Valencia County recounts a time he was essentially summoned to a deathbed confession of a man I'm going to call B, but mostly for his privacy.
Okay, so B is for his own protection, not because we think he's
right.
a suspect. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
although he has passed away at this point. The officer states that B tells him that he lived close to Sheriff Romero's son, L. And I am also not saying L did anything.
Okay.
If you remember, he was sheriff when Tara went missing and L died under broadly questionable circumstances. B explains that he would often party along with other people at L's mobile home. This mobile home, he claims, had a hand-dug basement underneath where people would go and use drugs. L was never concerned because of his father's position in the community. B says that he was over there one night drinking margaritas and cooking fajitas, as one does, when he noticed that what looked like a grave wrapped in a blue tarp in this party space. He says that he was told by L that L had been interested in Tara and had asked her out after she broke up with his friend. So that relationship she had prior. But she turned him down. Knowing where and when she rode her bike, he and several other guys found her there and hit her with the truck before placing her in the back. They took her to the gravel pits where they raped her. L says that she got ballsy and said they were going to go to jail for what they did with her. That's when L got a knife and he stabbed her while the other men held her down. They left her there but were worried when the search started and moved her body. B claims they talked about moving her body to another location, one owned by one of the men with a pond that they planned on placing her in.
I thought you just said L wasn't a...
So what this document is it's a community officer who is making a statement to the task force, but it is not the confession itself. So it's like a game of telephone at this point. So the community officer is making this statement to the task force about something that he says he was told by this man who says that this man was told by somebody else.
Okay. So like third-hand information?
Yeah, so we got some layers here, to be clear. B then said that the sheriff and his deputy, who would have been Rivera, would protect them. Now, the community officer says that he took this report and also recorded it. He said that he asked Rivera, the sheriff at the time, who was in charge of this case, about who is in charge directly. Like, who should he submit this deathbed confession-y thing to? And the sheriff said just to hand it to him. He says that this report and the recording later went missing, but he only learned of it when Melinda Esquivel, who was working on her podcast and documentary, came asking about this missing information since there was a report number but no corresponding documents or tapes associated with it in Tara's file. So the man who took the report only found out his stuff was missing because he was asked about it. And he was like, no, I submitted it. Very confusing.
It is.
Right.
It is confusing. I'm trying to keep up.
Yes. So I really do hate speculation in general. So I'll just say that Melinda does a deep dive into this document on her podcast where she clears up some things about it, which I can't wait to listen to. And also there are currently no convictions with any of these.
So it's all hearsay. It's all rumors, like, at this point.
Yeah, because there's, like, not actually, like, the tape recording and the original report from the time.
Well, nobody can ask L now. Like, whatever happened to L2?
He's in the mix.
He's just in the mix.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's not, like, he doesn't have any, like, great information.
He might not. I don't know. All right.
So it's so vague.
It's because it's, like, all just, like, small town rumors, which I hate, like, reporting on small town rumors, right?
Right.
In general. So, but these are the kinds of conversations that are happening. And, like, if anyone looks up Tara's name, they are going to come across this document online, right? So it's fair to include it here. And again, Melinda goes into a deeper dive into this document. That does bring us to more recent developments. That 2013 task force was disbanded within a year. It didn't yield results in terms of convictions. In 2021, though, a search warrant was executed on a property in Valencia County. I would love to tell you what it was, but authorities would not reveal what information, if any, was obtained, and the judge sealed the warrant.
It kind of fits in with the rest of it.
Yeah. And later last summer, so 2023, a press conference was called by Valencia County Sheriff's Department. They announced on June 13th, 2023, that they had turned the case over to the DA's office. Now, previously, this DA had said, we don't want to see this case again unless you have something substantial for us. So this is a big deal. Sheriff Denise Vigil, current sheriff, said, I personally was not sure I would ever see the day of a significant breakthrough, but I stand before you and confident of the findings in this case.
Do we believe her?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like so much pressure, particularly from Melinda's work, like kind of needling and digging around this community, have moved this forward. Lieutenant Joseph Rowland would later say, law enforcement believes they have identified the offenders associated with Tara Calico's disappearance. We are seeking to charge and arrest the offenders. New evidence was found stemming from investigative work in August 2020 to the present.
So it's in the process of being solved right now?
Well, they have assembled their case and sent it to the DA's office. Mm-hmm. What the DA's office responsibility is to do is to come up with whatever charges, if any, will come from the evidence that was submitted to them.
So that's something that would be made public
once the DA...
at some point soon?
Well, okay, so maybe.
Am I getting ahead of your
Yeah, you are.
Script? Yeah, okay. Too many questions.
Too many questions. No, kind of. So
I'll stop and I'll listen.
Okay.
Okay.
So as for the involvement of the sheriff's son and associates, Rowland kind of put this to rest. He said in May 2023 about the son, he was a kid involved in drugs, partying, drinking, and his father was the sheriff, and had the persona of, well, my dad is sheriff, so I can do whatever I want and I won't get in any trouble, right? And kind of went around town with the attitude that he owned it or he could do whatever he wanted. That's the impression I received from community members.
Sounds like a small town
Exactly.
kid with a sheriff for a dad.
Yeah. Now, the information that was turned over to the DA is currently sealed, and the names of the potential suspects have been kept quiet by the official agencies because of this. Because nearly a year has passed, there's been a lot of speculation and conversation about whether or not like anything's going to happen, which I understand because it's been so long, right? Some believe it's like essentially this move was not real and was just an attempt by Valencia County to like rattle cages, so to speak, to get people to talk. But I don't think that's it at all. I'll say that the DA's office, again, when they said, do not bring it to us unless you have something prosecutable. And in terms of length of time, yes, it has been a long time. Like, we got this announcement almost a year ago, but they have like over 30 years of information and layers to work through. So expecting charges to come within a week or even several months is not likely. Like, I've always been surprised at how slowly cases go.
It seems surprising.
Yeah. Like, very often it's like years right before a charge will be made or, you know, a trial will kick off or anything like that.
It just doesn't seem like it would take that long. But...
Yeah, because you're like, oh, like they present it to you and then you just like,
yeah,
check, we're good, right? But I want to return back to Tara here. If this case could have been solved by like the sheer hope and willpower of anyone, it would have been solved a long time ago. Now, this is complicated because I do believe that cases are much more likely to be solved through advocacy, which includes parental involvement. Because if this happened again to me, I would, yes, hold on to every scrap of hope with both hands, right? Mm-hmm. But over time, the information that's shared can change or not match up with what people said. What people said can be misrepresented and changed. And, you know, when it comes to like quick sound bites or whatever. I think about this most clearly in the Leslie sisters, who we did an episode on. Like, the story that's often shared by them is that they were on their way to a party and may have been seen there or maybe not. But looking through their file, it's clear that their destination was a boyfriend's house, which changes a lot about their case, right? Mm-hmm. So keeping that in mind, Rowland says that it's hard because he's had to clear up a lot of misinformation about this case, which includes the suspicion of Elle. He says that the photo of the young woman and the boy in the van isn't Tara, and a lot of details in this photo, to him at least, indicated that it could be a potential gag photo.
I was wondering that too, because largely the kids look unharmed, and I don't know, like they're either not distressed or drugged, but
yeah, so
they don't like appear that. Yeah, so I mean, it really could be a setup that somebody did. Like, well, I don't know why people mess with things so much though. Like, why would you do that?
I don't know. I was actually thinking of like all of those, like you as a photographer must have seen those. Like, can you like all those photos of Christmas time with like kids with like tape over their mouth and it's like silent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've even been asked to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's just, and it's like, I don't know if this falls into that realm of gag
like-
photo, but I think that might have been something to like mess with people.
Like a photo like that, like, you know, not knocking anyone who's done that, but like it makes sense in context. But like if it was taken out of context and just found somewhere without like an accompanying caption or heading, right? Like how would you like read that if you had just found, you know?
Actually, the time that we were asked to do it, we flipped it and we actually put the tape on the parents.
Right.
It just felt weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he also said that the detail about the cassette tape also might not be accurate. There was a cassette found, but he said it looked like it had been there for a while, not that it had been left less than 24 hours before. And the piece is the Walkman. He said that some plastic was, yes, found, but he claims it's not consistent with being from a Walkman. Rowland goes on to say, this case is solvable. Here we are, 34 years later. That's when he made this statement. I do not suspect that this case or Tara's disappearance will go unanswered for 36 years. I would like to point out that this year, 2024, is year 36. I will say what Melinda Esquivel has said publicly, which is she was being stalked, that she had turned someone down for a date and they were not happy about it. They started messing with her, asking her to go to a party, getting real close to her. You know, the boys were drunk and high and they hit her and knocked her off her bike. We believe she took off running to the east. And who those boys are will come later with whatever charges are made.
And those, do you think, are the same boys that they're kind of like looking into right now?
I think it's a small town, and I think there are probably some social connections between everyone. I'm not going to guess because I'm not in there, who they might be. I know.
But we think that the people Melinda is talking about, and then the people that...
I think they're somewhat slightly different, but
that's just
some people know each other and have some connections. And I know Melinda actually names them in her podcast. So if you want to know the names, you can go there. But that brings me to something Tara's friend Cynthia said back in 1989 for the 1-year anniversary of Tara's disappearance. It's like, to me, kind of a knowing without knowing moment. Cynthia said, "It makes me wonder sometimes, like maybe we were in town one night and we talked to some guy that Tara brushed off or something. You just never know. It's just an always wondering type of thing. A day doesn't go by that she's not on my mind." And then Cynthia continued, "I think I've become too paranoid. I'm always looking in the rearview mirror, always looking around me if I go home at night. It's like I sit in my car for a couple minutes and make sure. It could just be anybody. It could be somebody you see every day."
We are now going to listen to Amy's poem, How the Ocean and the Desert Meet, read by Lauren Robertson. Lauren is an LA-based actress-comedian who received her training from Chicago establishments like I.O. Theater and Second City's Conservatory program, where she then went on to write and perform in shows around Chicago and LA. Her TV credits include Modern Family, Baskets, and Sorry for Your Loss. She has been in several national commercials for companies including McDonald's, Pepsi, and New York Life Insurance. She is a published author and has written, produced, and starred in web content in conjunction with Funny or Die and Hello Giggles.
How the Ocean and the Desert Meet. Tara Calico, 19, missing since September 20th, 1988, from Belen, New Mexico. The juggernaut of change paces the girl on the bike. She's caught in the doldrums, her legs pumping and pumping, bringing her farther into the wake of the hulking truck. They pluck her up, net her out of existence. Inside, it's hooks and rope and men. The smell of their bodies, something like creosote and sweat, coats every breathable space. No one explains. With her mouth taped shut, she talks to herself, speaks the lesson of a fairy tale. A trail made with music. A cassette, its words melting. The player's plastic snapping. When there is nothing left, there is no way of following her into the desert. No one notices when they join a convoy. Everyone heading somewhere fast. The only noise through the window is tires against pavement. Out there, it is a wasteland, blanched white by the sun, the sand winnowed into waves. She wants to lie in it. She wants to return her body to salt.
For more information about our show or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcasts.com. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.